Hey everyone, Dan here. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot. And also keep in mind that these are my own thoughts, opinions, and ideas. These are not meant to be, nor should you take them as, investment or trading advice in any way, shape, or form. Do your own due diligence, put in the work for yourself, and make your decisions based on that. Enjoy. All right, everyone, we are about an hour and a half after market close on Wednesday, August 11th. We're going to take a look at Lucid today. And this is the chart that we've had in play for a little while now, and to me this is holding up relatively well, and I think it's sort of a factor of two things. So one, this is this Fibonacci retracement that we had drawn from this impulsive move that came from 1697 and topped out at 2981, and then looking for the retracements back to it. Now it pulled back to the 618s here in mid to late July. And then it did make this nice impulsive move up, but it wasn't able to sustain it and has dropped down nearly 100%, though not quite. But the reason that I think that these levels are holding up relatively well, meaning it caught some support here on the 50 and now is treating this 38.2 level as resistance, is because these zones line up really solidly if you look to the left here with previous support and resistance. So you see resistance here right in that zone, you see support and resistance here right in that same zone. And so that to me is sort of like why this has held up relatively well. So I would continue to look at this area for these to continue to play out as such. It comes up and hits the next level as resistance, turns it to support, and then is able to shoot up to the next level. I mean, we saw that here, right? We saw this play where it approached this 2491 level, hit resistance or timed itself out maybe that day, was able to establish support the following day, and ran up and hit the head of the body at the next level of 26.78 or $26.78, and then it rejected off of it, tried to catch support the following day at 24.91 and couldn't hold it, and then it fell back through. So to me, these are continuing to hold up really well. So the extent to which it can flip this 24.91 to support, that should unlock a run to 26.78, so on and so forth. Now if we get to stretch up again toward 30, like we were way back in the day, then we could certainly plot some additional courses there, whether that be a Fibonacci extension, if it's actually looking like a true extension level at that point, or just some actual supply and demand zones from back here, in the time frame when it was trying to hold up in the 30s, and obviously we know it had a hard time doing that. Now, the one thing that I would obviously be pretty cautious of is this triple, quadruple topping out area here. If it does make a run up to this zone, 2753 up to about 2864, a really, really tough zone for it to breach. So just know that it might start hitting some strong resistance toward the bottom of that. And then if it can establish support, not just peek its head above the red box, so we've seen that happen before, but actually establish support above it, that to me would then be the unlock to making another run at 30 and finally getting rid of this retracement chart and being able to plot something new. Now let's take a look at where the indicators say we're going, and then we'll zoom in and take a look at the shorter term chart and see if there's some shorter term trades or formations or patterns that could be presenting themselves. Now just today, we get our first inch up on just a very, very small green day, but still it was enough to sort of squash the rest of the bearish momentum that remained from this pull down, and we see a bullish crossover here, and the MACD is sitting just below the baseline, so it does have some room to run if it wants. And if it were to lift up to similar areas that we saw it occupying up here, then I would expect that to be establishing support over that 2678 level. So we'll see if that bullish crossover gains some strength and continues. They're always in their nascent phase, they're easy to kill. I mean, you see it here with the bearish momentum. It was easy to kill because it was young and not strong yet, and so it could just very quickly be squashed. Now we do see the bullish momentum had died down versus the bearish momentum had been picking up. So hopefully with this recent bearish momentum barely registering on the histogram, that could mean that it's gonna flip the script again and come back with some bullish momentum. Or the other possibility for sure is just that it continues relatively sideways. The other factor to look at is if you see this red zone here, and then you see this 2187 level here, it has been just essentially range bound between the two since the beginning of June. So it's spent all of June, all of July, and so far half of August just in this range. And so it's, to me, sort of like a pretty lengthy consolidation period, and it is a pretty sizable range though for it to be in. So there's a lot of room to move around in here, and the extent to which you can kind of play the range where you if you want to trade Lucid this way, where you buy toward the bottom of that range and then sell toward the top and rinse and repeat and treat it like a channel, then you could certainly make several take several profits while it does remain in the range, and then maybe someday when you're holding it, it bumps through the top of that range and you have even more gains. But just know that it could also fall to the downside and you could have excess losses. But while it's in that range, it could be a potential opportunity to play it, just depending on what it does, because it is a pretty wide range, like I said. Now the MAs also could be a nice influence here. So the 200 has really low level support that hopefully won't need at this point, but the 20 just established support over the 20 yesterday, and then today, even with just a slight green day, it's working to establish support over the 50. So the extent to which it can do that, the next bullish move is the 20 crossing above the 50, and that could give it, that certainly in my mind would give it the lift that it would need to establish support over that 2491 level, probably over 25, and open the door for the 20 MA with the support of the 50 MA underneath it to carry that price action to test this 23.6 level, which is $26.78. So I'm looking really, really closely for a bullish crossover with the 20 crossing above the 50 and the price action holding above it. The price action is not holding above it, then that crossover probably won't happen anyway. RSI sitting in the midline here, so this is always sort of a telling moment for whether or not the bullish momentum is going to pick up. Now, in this very short term, from August 4th on, this is looking pretty bullish, right? We're ticking up, but we have seen previously when it comes up to the midline, it can have a hard time establishing itself and holding over the midline to give itself, like it did back here, a true run toward or into overbought territory. When it comes down and it can't hold the midline like we saw here, and it falls down, then it's coming back much, much more toward oversold. But overall has held pretty bullish, because even on these dips like we saw down here, it's still holding the RSI at 40 there, which I know isn't anyone's favorite spot for the RSI to be on the bullish side of things, but it certainly is a far cry from dipping into oversold territory. So overall, still relatively bullish in my mind on the RSI side of things. Now, let's zoom in, and then we're just going to look at one quick data point before we call it a video. So again, sort of continuing along this uptrend line here that we see establishing and holding relatively strong, this could leave it some room to dip if it wants to play this out tomorrow, but this could again keep it relatively sideways within this range that we've been talking about. So if it comes down here and catches support on here, it's just going to keep it within this same range. And the shorter term indicator side of things, MACD sitting even lower, even further below the baseline, but still with a bullish crossover here, so has some potential to build some momentum in the after hours here and come into tomorrow strong, for whatever that could be worth. We'll see, but you saw it had a nice crossover here for most of the day today, but that significant sell-off at open killed any returns, and any meaningful returns that level of bullish run could have helped with. Catching support in the after hours now just over the 20, and we see that's catching support over the 20 here was a significant factor in it being able to lift through to market close. So that has had, we see it back here too, especially same thing happened here. 20 crossed over the 50 and had price action support, and so that bullish cross of 20 over 50 plus the price holding above it really strong elevating factor. We see the same thing here, bullish crossover, 20 crossing over the 50, price action establishing above it, gave it a really, really strong lift, and then when it broke the 20, it had a hard time holding, and the 50 couldn't catch it at all, and and then it gave back a bit of those gains. But if this can play out, establishing over the 20 and then the 20 recrossing over the 50, then could see a good lead into tomorrow. But right now it's having a little bit of struggle with the red candle. And similarly here on the RSI, looking relatively bullish, very short term. We do see some higher highs here and sort of like looking like it may be flagging out here between the two, and sort of testing the midline and seeing if it can do anything with the midline or not. So sort of a bit of a mixed bag, a few elevating factors that could come into play with Lucid, but a few sort of uncertainties that could hold it back. So just have to keep a tight eye on those going into tomorrow and see what's going to happen for anyone who's trading that more short term. Now quickly, on the data side of things, I just took a look at Ortex, and I hadn't realized this, but I noticed that the percentage of the free float that's on loan for short interest is a little over 10.6%. That is, I think, the exchange reported short interest now. Ortex estimating that today, relatively flat day short interest wise, but holding at about 8%. So it's getting very, very close to that historically significant threshold of 10% of the float being shorted, being seen as pretty high percentage, and that the sort of distortion that can bring to the markets, that perceived selling pressure that could then cause ripple effects and actual holders of the stock to start selling. That's historically, in my mind at least, where that threshold is. So as we're close to or at 10, I would just keep an eye on outsized selling pressure from the shorts. We do see here the utilization rates currently at 100, meaning that all of the shares available to loan to short sellers have been lent. So that to me would say they're going to have a hard time finding shares to borrow unless they want a naked short. And so that could keep some short sellers at bay, but we'll have to see. There may also be an unlock coming, I don't know. If folks would be interested in me doing a video on any potential lockup periods that still remain from CCIV to Lucid, I'd be happy to go through the documentation and do that. Just drop a comment below and let me know if that would be interesting or not. Maybe it's a well-known thing. I honestly didn't look at it at all leading up to this video, but I'm just noticing here this being a relatively small percentage of the float, yet being 100% utilized. That can often be when that happens, but maybe unlocks have already happened, and that's a thing in the past. I honestly don't know, but drop me a comment if you'd like me to do a full rundown and look and read through of the SEC documents and kind of go through them in a video so we can see what's happening. But that's what I see in this video. I hope that your trading week is going well, and I certainly wish you the best if you're trading Lucid or whatever you are trading. I will see you in the next video.